Welcome to Del Beccaro and Hook. Oh, we're so happy to have you back with us. We are live on Rumble and YouTube. And don't forget, of course, to check out our Patriot page, patriot.tv/DHED. That's Del Beccaro Hook Enlightened Dissent. So patriot.tv/DHED. Tom, hello there. How are you, my friend? Good to see you again. Happy.
Good to see you. I'm out in California at this point, and we're drone free around me. What about you?
Everywhere. They're everywhere. I mean, it's funny because I got to be 100% honest. I have not seen them, but that's because I live about a mile away from the beach, and apparently they're all over the Manasquan River, which runs real close to us, and you're very familiar with that area, Tom, and of course the coast, and they've been seen everywhere. I've got a lot of friends that have seen them, and it's crazy. And you may not see them up in Northern California, but apparently in San Diego they've made some incursions, and north of you in Oregon they've seen a couple. DC, you got Larry Hogan, former governor of Maryland, who is now railing against the feds because he's spotted them in his own backyard. It's crazy. You haven't seen any, huh?
No, actually, I haven't seen the saucers. Tune in, wouldn't it be something? That's the Elton John song from the 70s, right? But we have a lot to talk about that. We're going to have Colonel Schaefer join us in just a couple of minutes to talk about Syria and this drone thing. But of course, I don't know what I'm more peaked about. Steve, you can answer from your perspective. Are you more mad at the fact that they're lying to you, or are you more mad at the fact that they're lying to you about lying to you?
Probably a combination of those two. I think the messaging has been so ham-fisted, but it's what we'd expect. I was watching Molly Hemingway, the great Molly Hemingway from the Federalist yesterday I think she was on Fox, and she made a point that this is just a sad chapter to the end of a sad presidency, essentially. It's just so pathetic, and we do have some audio bites to kind of underscore the point. It's one thing to say, look, guys, we don't know what the hell's going on. We are looking for it. We promise we'll get to you as soon as we know. Obviously, something's going on, but they're not saying that. They're saying, well, you know what? Why don't we go to some audio bites here and let you see for yourself. This was Fox's Jackie Heinrich. She really kind of nailed down on John Kirby, and Kirby is just a horrible spokesperson for the National Security Council, if I may say so. So let's go to cut one. Here she is. The question is essentially, how can you assure the people there is no threat? Jackie Heinrich and John Kirby, go.
Basically, with what you're looking at, how can you credibly tell people that there is no public safety threat, there's no national security threat, that there's no reason to believe that a foreign government is involved?
Because the analysis thus far, in an investigation that is ongoing, has not revealed any national security or malicious intent or criminal activity. But, Jackie, I would remind you, we're at the beginning here, not the end. There's a lot more work to be done, and we're working closely with state and local authorities to gain more information. I would argue that we're moving pretty well here with a sense of energy to try to figure out what we can do to learn more about this. We're still in the middle of an ongoing investigation, and I'm up here explaining to you and letting you know what we know so far, what we believe so far. If information comes to light that changes that characterization, then my goodness, we'll be the first ones to let you know. But right now, there's just no indication that this is some sort of foreign malign activity, or in fact even criminal.
Boy, that
okay. So here's the thing, and there, as you know, there was a classified hearing with the Speaker of the House yesterday. So they know something, right? Of course, they know something. I refuse to believe that in December of 2024, they don't have radar on the movements of every one of these things, telling them exactly where they are and figuring out what kind of craft they are. They had a classified hearing on this. So they know something, but we don't. They say there's no malicious intent, so that either means that it's us, meaning our equipment, or they're just lying. So which is it?
Yeah. We have no idea who's controlling them or what they are, but we do know that they're not a threat. It doesn't really make a whole hell of a lot of sense. So Heinrich pressed him, and I got to say, Jackie Heinrich, as far as I'm concerned, the two best hard-nosed reporters in the White House press pool are Peter Doocy and Jackie Heinrich. They really press him. And she went on to say, well, what kind of guidance has the president offered? Now, I don't know about you, Tom, but I have heard zero from the president concerning this. So she says, well, has the president been talking to anybody? Here's cut 2. Check this one out.
Has the president or the Secretary of Defense issued any guidance to NORTHCOM or military installations to act on these systems if they're deemed to be a threat in any way? And what's the benchmark for that determination?
So 2 thoughts. First of all, you're right. Late November. It is now the 12th of December. I think it shows that we're moving on with this, and we're going to stay on it. So I want to disabuse you of any notion that we're not taking this seriously, because we are. I can also tell you that if the president, as commander-in-chief, believed, based on the information that he'd been given, that there was a national security threat at play here, or even a public safety threat at play here, he would issue the appropriate directives to not only law enforcement, but perhaps even the military if that was needed. I want to go back to something I said at the top. There has been no evidence of any of this activity in or near restricted spaces.
That's not what the senators said in the letter. They said, in fact, that they've been observed maneuvering their critical infrastructure, sensitive locations, including reservoirs and military installations, and cited a concern from law enforcement about public safety threats because a medevac helicopter was prevented from transporting a seriously injured patient for care because of the presence of these drones.
I stand by my opening statement.
So,
There's been
first
no
of all, this
threats.
I guess this sort of two things following up on this. One, no restricted. They haven't done anything illegal. These flight patterns, which raises a question to me. Well, then maybe our laws aren't good enough. I am not a proponent of private ownership of drones. One day they're going to be small enough they're going to go right through people's front door and spy on people, and then come back out. And that future is ahead of us. And it seems to me if we just let anybody use them at any time, as long as they don't go over an airbase, I'm not buying it. It are literally the skies. I'm looking out the window. The sky's going to be full of drones. But because they're only over non-restricted airspace, that's going to be okay. I'm not buying that, right? And the idea that they, what is it, Mayorkas? I know you got a clip on your favorite Mayorkas. The idea that we can do nothing about this, well, because remember, we're not allowed to do anything about this. We were told it was illegal for us to take them down. So, and I would get why that would be. You don't want people shooting up missiles and missing and having those missiles land and hurt other people. But they can't do anything and we can't do anything. So where does that lead?
Yeah, you're on your own, folks. Good luck. We don't see a threat. And if we do see a threat, we'll get back to you as the bodies hit the deck. I find the whole thing absurd, especially given the fact, Tom, this is the same administration that allowed a massive balloon the size of a city bus carrying all kinds of very high-tech espionage equipment, for lack of a better word. They picked it up over the Bering Strait, for God's sake. So before it even hit Alaska, they knew it was coming. And then they allow it to transverse across the entire intercontinental United States, assuring us that, oh, there's no threat. We don't really know what it is, but it's no threat. And then we know that thing most assuredly did fly directly over very sensitive spots. And then they shoot it down 11 miles off the coast of South Carolina. I just don't have a lot of faith. I don't put a lot of faith in the federal government to be telling us the truth on this, given their past record. I don't think I'm out of line.
100%. Let's pivot quickly here to pardon season and the home run record set by the Biden administration in pardoning people. There's many aspects to this story. I get pardons. You had Clinton pardon Mr. Rich,
Mark
which
Rich.
was ridiculous, right? He was a criminal, not a good one, not some guy who turned into Mother Teresa kind of thing. So this happens. We have the pardon of Hunter Biden, which is, look, he was about to be sentenced to a lot of years, so they did it really quickly before then, so it didn't look that bad, or even worse. He committed crimes, didn't pay taxes, but some of these, the scandal about this judge in Philadelphia, I just don't get it. And then you have the Chinese operative with the pornography. What's your take?
Well, my take is exactly. First of all, 1,500 commutations in one day. 1,500. I mean,
and we're in early December.
Yeah. And by the way, I think it should be pointed out that while Hunter has been pardoned, the rest of the Biden international family of grift has yet to be pardoned, but they will. That's coming. James Biden pardon is coming. Probably Ashley Biden. God knows, probably Dr. Jill is going to get a pardon. And let me ask you this, Tom. Doesn't it seem as if, like, the new trendy thing in D.C. inside the Beltway is to have a pardon? Because it seems like everybody's kind of saying, hey, I want a pardon too. And so it's just, I know there's more pardons coming, but the judge that you mentioned, this is, for those people who don't remember this judge was busted for taking kickbacks from private prisons and holding facilities for young folk. And so it was called Cash for Kids. So he would sentence these kids to detention centers around the fruited plain, and he would get a check in the mail for doing that. It was just so horrendous. He was sentenced to 17 and a half years in prison, in federal prison, back in 2011. So his sentence was almost over. So if he had just gotten a commutation, that would have been one thing. But Biden gave him a full pardon as if none of it ever happened. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and the thing about this is not a crime where he stole some money. No, this was a crime that affected many children.
Yeah, and their families.
And some, at least one of which committed suicide. So it had a community impact. And their comment is, well, this gives him a second chance. So who doesn't deserve a second chance at that point? And if I'm the Trump administration and I'm facing some J6ers, I simply say, for the grandmother who never went inside the building,
yeah,
she gets a pardon because she didn't do anything remotely as bad as what this judge did. And I would announce every one of them exactly like that. There's some people who were breaking windows and stealing things. I have no sympathy for them for doing that, right? But the grandmother who didn't go inside and the rest, especially in the light of the fact that now we know that there were FBI agents on the ground, but they were doing nothing. This is to the DOJ and FBI, two entities for which there can be no trust. Does anybody believe Christopher Wray when he said, I don't know how many were on the ground? That's utterly laughable. He knew it all along.
Of course he
But
did.
To your earlier question, are people going to get a pardon? What a sick commentary on the state of the republic, that people go into public office and are happy to leave with a pardon.
Yeah. And like I said, it's like a badge of honor these days. It's like the new trendy thing. It's like,
yeah, but it's the opposite. Look, so in my book, The Lessons of the American Civilization, which you can still get in time for Christmas for somebody, you have Edward Gibbon talk about the fact that the decline of Rome involved the decline of public virtue, people serving the state because they believed in the state and the good that they were going to do for all. And now the trendy thing is, I got away with it.
Yeah, right.
And so that's a clear commentary as to the fall of the Roman Republic and where we are today, is it not?
I couldn't agree with you more. Our moral clarity has been lost somewhere along the line. And when the new Tickle Me Elmo inside the Beltway is a pardon from an outgoing president that will go down in history, no doubt, as the worst president, at least of modern American history. I can't think of one that can touch him. Jimmy Carter is, living in palliative care somewhere, but he can breathe a sigh of relief before he meets his maker.
Because and Jimmy Carter, I know you're going to wrap in a second here. Jimmy Carter was not a bad human being.
No.
I can't say the same about Joe Biden and the family and the administration and all of these people who are doing what they did and made money off the government.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you completely, and I really do think that the whole thing is an absolute crock. And like I said, as frustrating as it is now, Tom, it's only going to get worse. That's the thing. It's only going to get worse because I suspect that when we get back from our holiday break, or maybe even before we go on holiday break, we're going to be hearing of pardons for Pelosi, Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney. I mentioned the Bidens.
Fauci.
I beg your pardon?
Fauci.
Yeah, Dr. Fauci. Good point. And this is just, you know what it does to me, as far as I'm concerned? It says that every one of those conspiracy theories, these tinfoil hat right-wing conspiracy theorists, well, if there wasn't something to them, then why blanket pardons for just about everybody that had anything to do with the Biden administration going back 4 years? Rather stunning. All right, well, listen, we do have to take a break. Coming up, we will discuss more, maybe with Tony Schaefer. We've also got some more video clips. Tom, you made mention of the Mayorkas. This one we'll save this for the last break, because while it's still on the drones, it's absolutely it encapsulates the messaging that we've gotten out of this White House for 4 years. And it's quite laughable. So I think you're going to enjoy that. You're watching and listening to Del Beccaro and Hook. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back to Del Beccaro and Hook. We're pleased to have our friend, retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt. He was the Deputy United States Military Representative to NATO. He supported the military representative and the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff in executing U.S. political military mission at the North Atlantic Council. Blaine, thanks so much for coming on short notice. Speaking of short notice, we have two topics to talk to you about. I want to get to Syria first, though, because it's not every day that a Middle Eastern country collapses. I think Syria is one of the ultimate client states in the old order of things. Can you give us your thoughts here? Why the sudden collapse, and what's the long-term effect of Syria collapsing?
Absolutely. It's great to return to the show. Just really quick on Syria, you're looking at a massive, massive power vacuum that has erupted, and some of these tectonic plates that cause this, which are important, is you have the IDF that's been mopping up these proxies over the last year and a half, and that is Hamas, obviously Hezbollah, somewhat the Houthis, but this has weakened Iran. The missile exchanges between Israel and Iran has weakened the Iranian regime. Wait a minute. The Trump election, his victory, sent the rial in Iran, their currency, just diving to zero and creating hyperinflation. So Erdogan, the prime minister of, or the president of Turkey, has always had designs on Syria, always. And the reason is he wants a buffer zone. He wants to kill Kurds, and he wants to become the regional hegemon. So looking at opportunity, if the Ayatollah is on the descendancy with the IRGC, then this was his time, especially before Inauguration Day, when Trump could start to clean up the Middle East. So he took this HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham force, which is just a repackaging of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and resource them and turn them loose on Aleppo. Well, looks like there's probably a ton of corruption that was in preparation as well, because the Syrian soldiers didn't fight at all, really. They just laid down their weapons and their uniforms and moved on. What do we have? We have Russia leaving the country. We have the Ayatollah further weakened. We have really the CIA and Erdogan and Al-Qaeda opposing United States forces and the Kurds. It's very, very odd bedfellows right now. Very dangerous. It's only going to escalate from here. No one should see HTS as anything other than a bunch of Al-Qaeda thugs. They are currently executing Christians, Druze, Alawites, anybody who was in a Syrian uniform before, while they accept all the donations from the NGOs because they want to say that they're a pluralistic society on the ascendancy.
Unbelievable.
So if we're in your old role, or the president of the United States asks you, what should the United States do over the next 12 months there? What would you say?
President Trump, his instincts are really great here. You know, he said, this isn't our fight, we should be out of it. And we really haven't justified our presence in eastern Syria yet, in my mind's eye. Why do I say that? Blaine, they're standing by our Kurd partners. They're there to check ISIS. Really? Well, ISIS had a lot of vibrant camps. In fact, so vibrant that just the other day, our government managed to find 77 targets to go bomb overnight. They were there before. Little hint for the listeners. But the next steps are stand by our ally Israel, work joint planning with them, and look to shape the area and curtail HTS where it stands. That doesn't mean by military means necessarily. The IDF has that well in hand. So again, our presentation of forces is wrong. Trump is right. We got to get our folks out of there.
So if I'm reading you right, for decades, the worry is about Iran and nuclear weapons. You think it's possible that the Iranian regime falls and then the biggest player would become Erdogan, but not aligned with U.S. interests. We have a NATO partner, I use that word loosely, that will be working counter to democracy and freedom. Are both of those true, or what's your thought?
Yeah, they're true. And here's the danger. They're a full-fledged member of NATO, a voting member of NATO. They can veto any single thing that the United States wants to do using the alliance right now. They have, Erdogan over the year has openly threatened Israel, threatened them with war, threatened to back Hamas. He hosts Hamas leaders in his country, but he also hosts a NATO major headquarters in Izmir. He hosts U.S. bases down at Incirlik. I've been stationed there as well, and so they sit on very important geographic terrain, geopolitical terrain. But Erdogan's we're going to have to engage Turkey at one phase or another. I believe that will happen on President Trump's watch. But Erdogan is making his move now, sensing the weakness out of Iran.
Wow.
So, and just to wrap up this part of it, and then we want to talk to you about drones. So what happens with an Iranian regime that collapses? I mean, who fills that vacuum?
So that has been planned for years and years, and I feel pretty good about that. If when the Iranian people and the Iranian rebels that have been keeping their powder dry for well over a decade, when they decide it's time to move, could it be violent? Well, it could, but the IRGC has already proven on the battlefield it's actually not that effective. So if the Ayatollah falls, and they may fall internally, IRGC versus the Ayatollah, there is a lot of internal fighting amongst the regime there right now. But when that happens, you can look for the former crown prince of Iran under the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, to return and lead the country. That's great for us, because if we will leave the oil fields alone, they'll have an economy. They'll easily hand over all of the nuclear weapons development. I could even see in Iran in that scenario joining the Abraham Accords.
Wow. That's big. That's big. Blaine, welcome to the show. It's so good to see you, General. I want to touch on the drones, but I want to just circle one real thing real quick. This character, Al-Jalani, who is now heading up what's happening inside Syria. Here's a guy that a year ago was in a turban, basically saying off with their heads. I mean, this guy was full-blown Al-Qaeda. Now he's dressed in a vented blazer, and he's trying to look considerably more moderate. Sounds to me like what you're saying is don't believe your lying eyes, because he is not moderate. He's every bit as crazy as he was. And the 2% of Christians inside Syria are certainly saying that. Is that where we're at? Is this just like a media-created moderate, and he's really a hardliner?
Oh, yeah. No, the media wanted their way. They wanted this to be the Berlin Wall moment. This is Tahrir Square. We have a new reformed guy who says, I know terrorism was the wrong way. Now we're going to have this pluralistic society. He is actively murdering people right now. They have emptied some torture chambers under the Assad regime, and they're filling them up with their new enemies, which is anybody who's not an Islamic extremist just like they are. And wow. He plans to export that. He plans to build this. And quite frankly, they had pallets of cash dumped on them almost overnight. So this is dangerous. This is meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's just that this one wants to execute Christians, whereas the other one was protecting them. So that's where it's at. Israel understands this. The Druze have already voted, let's get the hell out of this country and let's go have our land annexed into Israel, because we know that they'll come murder us too. But no one should kid themselves. This guy is a Pol Pot wannabe.
Yeah. Wow. That's scary. It just makes me wonder what would have happened if we had supported the Green Revolution in Tehran all those years ago. But whatever. I guess we'll never find out. All right. Let's move to the drones, because this is Tom and I were talking earlier. It seems to me that the drones are very real. People are seeing them, and the messaging coming out of the White House, whether it's Kirby or whether it's Mayorkas, basically it's all misidentification. Even former governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, is now blasting them. They've been seen in several states now. What's your take on the drones, General?
When Larry Hogan speaks out against the woke regime, you know we're in trouble. The big thing here is we know they're lying. We know they're lying, and that John Kirby saying, calming everybody down by saying the state of New Jersey doesn't any longer have the ability to recognize what commercial air traffic looks like. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And the other cool part is we don't even have to worry about disbelieving them, because they've got this trail of lies that goes back to COVID and Kabul. So where are we? Well, there's a variety of things going on here. The thing that I find the most alarming about these drones that somehow the world's most resourced military can't deal with is that the interface between the federal level of law enforcement and the state level is non-existent. In fact, we talked to professionals in Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey, and they all say they've never seen a silence like this before out of cooperation with the feds. So what are we left with? Well, Jeff Van Drew says it's an Iranian set of drones off of some mothership someplace. I tend to think that somebody might have set him up on an information warfare basis, but that remains to be seen. Could it be a foreign power? Sure. I've seen some pictures that lined up pretty well with some Chinese stuff. But do we have new drones that are in a test arrangement? Or, and this is where I'm hanging my hat until we know better, are they looking for something? Are the feds afraid to tell us what's really going on, and they're trying to sniff out something that is of a nuclear nature, a chemical nature, a biological nature? I don't know, and I'm that's mere speculation on my part. But that our government won't talk to us is troubling, because in times of trouble, this government never talks to you. And the people of New Jersey and all up the Eastern Seaboard are right to be very concerned. And honestly, if an event does happen, God forbid this, but if an event does happen, what are we going to do? Are we going to turn around and say, oh, wow, we so understand why you kept us in the dark. We would have all panicked, and now look at this tragedy. No, we're going to be saying off with their heads, because this set of Keystone cops, and I think malevolent, not negligent, they need to be held to account. And nobody, look at what Northcom did. Northcom issued this statement saying we're not responsible for these drones on the Eastern Seaboard. Really? Well, then return the money. It's just like Lincoln said. Tom will like this. It's just like Lincoln said, hey, General McClellan, if you're not using that army on the Potomac, I should like to. And it's the same exact concept. It's, we pay over $1 trillion for our national security. And if the best that gets us is a few Chinese balloons sailing overhead, Chinese police stations, millions of fighting age men walking amongst us from every terror group on the planet, and now possibly weapons and drones that can't be accounted for and nobody can do anything about, well, turn the American people loose, because you know what? Going back to the Sons of Liberty, we know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve, we're both from Georgia. You know how this gets handled back home.
Oh yeah, it's a different scenario for sure. You know, the thing is what's puzzling about this is beyond the actual sightings of these drones is I tend to believe that you're right, General. They seem to be flying within FAA ordinances as far as drone ceilings are concerned. They're lit up, so there's no way that nobody sees them and knows them. So if they're sniffing something out, as you say, and this is a tracking maneuver, in effect, is what's going on here, why would they ever say, yeah, you're probably mistaking a Piper Cub for a drone? It could be a plane coming into Newark or LaGuardia or whatever. I mean, how stupid do they think we are?
It's their reflex, or the reflex. Their reflex, their natural reflex, is to lie. When the truth would work better, these clowns would rather, because look where they hail from. They're all woke academics, look down the brow of my nose against you, pretentious. I come from the best think tanks. I know better than you, plebe. And what they would never do is humble themselves and say, hey, we're in trouble. America, we need your help. We need eyes on this. So all you neighborhoods out there, all you citizens out there, see something, say something. And by the way, we all need to pull together now, because we're all looking for something. Then they would find the American spirit rise and say, hold my beer and get out of my way, because I'm going to go take care of this now. They won't do that, because at these hallowed think tanks and at the halls of Georgetown, well, we know much better. But we also know Jake Sullivan and Antony Blinken play with plastic toy soldiers in their offices. Just saying.
So what are the likelihood that this can be cleaned up by the next administration? And the cleanup meaning just what you just described.
They won't clean themselves up. What they're going to do, and what I see happening, is the strategy that this administration has pre-inauguration day, and I mean the Biden administration, their strategy is to create as much chaos and put that into President Trump's arms. They're trying to rip reverse gear out of World War III. They're trying to create, they're doubling down on throwing our money everywhere to the winds, financial collapse. They just won't stop. They want to just create as many dumpster fires. The good news is this: as soon as President Trump is inaugurated safely, that's a key word here, then we can start to get about this new season of accountability, calming the world down, setting about peace agreements, and getting America back to America, and using the American people for their ingenuity and their help.
Wow. I mean, it makes you wonder, though, doesn't it, General, that Here we have all kinds of accusations about the Biden family accepting kickbacks from even some of the world's worst nation states, Iran, and China. And we saw what happened with the Chinese balloon, traversed all the way from the Bering Strait to 11 miles off the coast of South Carolina. Kind of makes you wonder if there's a nod and a wink agreement. Okay, we're gonna dumb down the American people and go ahead and take all the photos you want. I just don't trust any of it.
They're trying, and look, you don't need a better example. We're all outraged by the Hunter Biden pre-crimes pardon, where it's completely illegal, but it's okay. From 2014, you're safe going to this day. What a bunch of nonsense, and how antithetical and repugnant to our Constitution. The one that was the kicker for me is this Chinese cat who's guilty of 47,000 child pornography images, to include rape. On his computer, they put him away for, I don't know, 96 years. That's like a sliver of what he should have got, and he gets pardoned. So you don't think that there's some sort of weird, bizarro relationship with China or Iran or the rest of them? Because if you don't think that, then you are the one who's in trouble. And what we have to do is, we're going to get back to common sense. But there is a whole lot of people in D.C. right now that had better be calling criminal attorneys. In fact, that's a metric I'd love to see. I'd like to see how the business is of initial consults for criminal attorneys in D.C.
Blaine, we ran out of time. As usual, you didn't talk fast enough and cover enough topics, so we're going to put
That's
this
because I'm
on
from
you.
Georgia.
I'm going to tell you my favorite Georgia story of all time off air, but thanks so much for coming in and enlightening us, and maybe not in the best way, but we need to know the truth. And someday we're going to get that truth, and hopefully that's in January. Thanks so much for being on with us.
Thank you both. Have a great weekend.
See you, General.
All right, take care.
How about if we introduce the donor deck to you? It's a limited edition collectible that's more than just a deck of cards, but it is a fine deck of cards. I mean, it features some beautifully hand-drawn art. Donald Trump, he's a king. Imagine that. Melania Trump, she's a queen. Guess what position Joe Biden has in the deck, Tom? Joker. He's a Joker, but of course. And this is all beautifully hand-drawn art of Trump, Melania, Joe Biden, Don Jr., Eric. I'm sure they're probably Jack's. Even Jack Smith gets in on the mix. He's probably the second Joker. It's got an engraved case with number 45 and 47 on it. Of course, the 45th administration and the 47th. A premium metal challenge coin and holder is also included. Stunningly crafted face cards to enjoy with your family and friends next time you play a game of, I don't know, spades or something. 100% of all profits support MAGA Incorporated and Fight Like a Flynn PAC. Directly funding the fight for America's future. So who could argue with that? You can get yours today at patriot.tv/DHED and make sure you use that promo code DHED. That's Del Beccaro Hook Enlightened Dissent, DHED, and you'll get exclusive discounts. Act fast now because you want to put these in some stockings, right? Or maybe under the tree. This is your chance to own that collectible symbolizing freedom, values, and most importantly, probably action, which is what we need to take. So there you go. A great holiday gift idea for you. A couple of them. Tom's book and the donor deck here. Go check it out.
Hey, welcome back. This is Tom Del Beccaro. Welcome back to Del Beccaro and Hook. Make sure you pick up a copy of my book. There's still time to get it in Christmas for that certain someone or yourself. That's always a good idea. I'm Tom Del Beccaro. That's Steve Hook. I am rooting for the West Coast teams in the CFAA playoffs. That would be Oregon and Arizona State, who probably have to play each other, but Oregon will go farther than Georgia. And I know that angers my co-host Steve Hook, who still lives in Georgia in his mind. So we have a little bet, and you're going to know who won it all because Steve will be wearing that Oregon Duck hat, which I'm going to get for him when they surpass Georgia. But returning to our topics, and thanks a lot to Brigadier General Blaine Holt, who substituted real quick. We thought we were going to have Colonel Tony Schaefer, but he got tied up in traffic, and Steve.
We'll get him back.
Yeah, but General Holt was able to come in real quick. But think of all the, alarm and questions that he raised, especially about these drones. We still live in a world where the government is not even remotely honest with his people, and the poster child for that might well be the guy who needs a pardon in his own mind, at least. And let's go. I know General Holt brought it up, and our amazing producer has it for us. So, Andy, please give a ring and let us watch this amazing. Yeah.
What can you say to those Americans who are deeply concerned right now about all these sightings over New Jersey, New York, here and outside of Washington, D.C., and Maryland?
Wolf, thanks for having me. Let me calm those nerves. We have not seen anything unusual. We have not seen any unusual activity. We know of no threat. We know of no nefarious activity. I want to repeat that. We have not seen anything unusual. We know of no threat or of any nefarious activity. And let me explain. People are reporting sightings of drones. It is very common for individuals who think they see drones to actually see small aircraft, and we have a case of mistaken identity. Also, we have 6 different people reporting what they think is a drone, and all of a sudden we have reports of 6 drone sightings. So there's some duplication. I have been in touch with Governor Murphy every day. Our experts have been in touch with the New Jersey State Police every day. What we have done is we have deployed our state-of-the-art technology. We've deployed our experts to New Jersey. That technology has not confirmed any drone sightings. In addition, it has confirmed that some reported drone sightings are, in fact, small aircraft.
Yeah. And on another note, the border is completely secure. I mean,
you know what? He is not nearly as good looking as Colonel Schultz was in Hogan's Heroes. And that goes way back for a lot of people. But this what he would say. I know nothing. I've seen nothing. So let's start immediately with there's nothing unusual. Well, though, that's not true. There are these groups of drones, and we have never seen these. This is why it's actually a story, Mr. Mayorkas, because it is unusual. That's number one. Number two, commercial aircraft and planes don't go in one direction and then reverse right in front of your eyes. They don't hover. We know these things, right? So he's just a complete liar, and he makes it worse. But think of what Wolf Blitzer asked him right at the beginning. He said, deeply concerned. So he didn't say, I understand why there could be some concern here. No, he just did what General Holt talked about. He condescended and said, you don't know what you're seeing, which is the Biden administration in full. Inflation really isn't a bad thing. The border's closed. I hate using the term gaslighting, but apparently it means just bold-faced lying to you and telling you you're wrong about what you're feeling and what you're seeing. And I look forward to an administration that not only doesn't do that, but doesn't cause all these problems that we have to even get there.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And the thing that General Holt said that really frightened me was saying that this could be a tracking exercise, and they're afraid that something has gotten in. to the country. Now, by that, I mean some intel agency may have gotten word that there's a dirty bomb, nuclear, chemical, bio, as the general pointed out. And they just don't want to tell the public, hey, by the way, if you live on the eastern seaboard, there's a chance that we're going to lose major cities to a bomb or whatever. Now, of course, this is rank speculation, but when you have this kind of messaging and complete lack of transparency, people are going to start coming up with their own scenarios. And it'd be one thing if it were just you and I, Tom, sitting around the pool drinking a cocktail, BSing with each other. But when it's General Blaine Holt saying, hey, wait a minute, obviously something is going on, then I tend to believe him. And I believe Holt a hell of a lot more than I believe Mayorkas because of the track record. I mean, they are shameless. Shameless.
Yeah, and they are taking advantage of circumstances. I mean, how else do you explain that they are allowing Iran another $10 billion on what universe or what rationality should they get more money when the original allowing them to get this money was endangered the whole world, right? Cause these wars, Israel has to retaliate. Why would you let them get more money? Why would you let go a Chinese operative who has enough child porn to be put away forever and ever? So, yeah. Right? So yes, there are explanations that somehow they think giving Iran money will have some good outcome in their mind, but they have no positive track record in foreign policy, and they continue to light these fires. And yeah, somehow the Trump administration's got to deal with this. But whether it's drones and whether it's this Iranian situation or otherwise, they sit there and tell us, the American people, we don't think you're smart enough to know the truth. And I look forward to an administration where that's no longer true.
I agree. And let me just kind of drill down on what Mayorkas is claiming, which is just absolutely absurd. Folks, I live on the Jersey Shore. I know I've personally, as I mentioned earlier, I personally haven't seen one yet. Doesn't mean they're not there. It means that I'm just not where they are. But I know many people that have seen them. We also have at least 3 small airports within 10 miles of my house, and they've been there for years. We also have, of course, Newark, and we have the flight patterns sometimes where planes are lining up to land at Newark, and they may fly over. We have seen these planes for decades. We know they're there. We know what they look like. So for Mayorkas to get up there and say, all of a sudden, everyone in New Jersey has no idea what a plane looks like is the height of absurdity. And it's insulting. And even Larry Hogan, as we mentioned with the general, even Larry Hogan, who is a rhino of the First Order, has just lit them up and said, you're out of your bloody mind to suggest such a thing. They, like I said, shameless, Tom. I am convinced, I hate to say this, but my gut just tells me they know exactly what this is. Biden is probably making filthy lucre off the side by letting Chinese or Iranian or whatever, who knows? I think the general was right when he said Jeff Van Drew may have been intentionally leaked some pretty bad intel just to make him look stupid. But they're not doing themselves any favors by looking smart. And I just find the whole thing.
So my mother-in-law, who lives 10 minutes from you, right on that river, she called me immediately when there was a flock of about 10. And again, it's there are small airports, in a lot of small airports in New Jersey. But the difference is when a plane goes in one direction, it doesn't back up, it doesn't hover. And so this is where they are. Now, so what are we to think? If they sit there and say that we have no intelligence that says this is harmful. There's only 2 reasons why you can say that. One, it's American and they're looking for something. This relates to the drones. It's American and they're testing something out, or it's American and they're looking for something, which is the risk. The other thing is it is someone else's, and they they're not ready to tell us the truth yet because they're maybe trying to find it, maybe to smoke it out, finish it off, whatever it is. All of these are bad scenarios, but nothing surprised me about how incompetent this administration is. His foreign policy team is going to go down as one of the worst in American history. They're sitting there now these days trying to take credit for the fall of Syria as if that's unilaterally or forever a good thing. We don't know that to be the case. We'll have to see how it plays out. But the reason why Syria fell was not because of them. Russia gave up on them because Russia can't support them anymore because of the war that they're in that started under the Biden administration, right? They can't control Erdogan. They don't know, they're giving money to Iran, which could do something really bad in response to the regime being in such danger. They told Israel not to do any of this stuff, but it's the stuff that they did that beat Hamas into submission, and also Hezbollah and maybe even Iran. So the most incompetent of all time, and they're going out with this last bit of gaslighting and incompetence.
Yeah, it's really something else. And incompetence, sure. Malevolence, certainly, perhaps. I mean, there could be something at play here inside the administration. I suspect that the very last pardon that Joe Biden is going to throw out there before he leaves is himself. And by the way, before I leave, I'm pardoned.
No, being serious, because we joke around sometimes. Like I think it's possible that Georgia wins, so I joke around, obviously. But do you really think he's going to pardon himself?
Well, I think he's pardoning everyone around him that could connect him to any crimes that they may.
Okay, but then that doesn't stop him from testifying. I don't think there's any scenario where Trump goes after Biden. I think is going to happen is they're just going to expose a lot of this stuff. And then say,
you know what, Tom? That would do more damage to them politically in the long run, because it would show that Trump is taking the high road. He completely blows up the media narrative about him being literally Hitler, and he takes the high road, and then he says, you know what, we're not going to prosecute any of these people, but we sure as hell are going to have a primetime press conference and show you what they all did. That would be devastating. I would love to see that. So we'll have to wait and see. And yes, I agree with you. Georgia can and will beat Oregon should that happen. I don't know, but
I looked at a lot of predictions, seeing Notre Dame in the final game, not Georgia, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see about that. So the pardon rate, though, I mean, what also just blows it away is that so many so early. I mean, there's still 6 weeks left for them to do how many? I mean, that's what I don't get. I mean,
yeah,
they're already set a record.
It's like they're saying, hey, if you want your pardons, Christmas is coming up. Get your pardon request in early because the president's loaded up here. 1,500 commutations, 39 pardons the other day. This, of course, follows the Hunter Biden pardon. As we mentioned earlier, no doubt more Biden family members, perhaps Fauci, perhaps Pelosi, perhaps Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff. I mean, the list goes on. And of course, this kind of underscores that all of those wild right-wing conspiracies, none of them were true, right. But just to cover our own ass, we're going to pardon everybody just in advance.
Okay, so we need to wrap up here. We will be back, of course, next week. But at this stage, I think that everybody makes it through. I think the will to go against Hegseth has evaporated.
Agreed.
Joni Ernst saw which way the wind was blowing, so she's going to fall into line. I think the fight against Tulsi Gabbard isn't going to go anywhere, and I would say that I think President Trump gets all of his picks that have to go through the Senate. What say you?
I agree with you. And if you had asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would not have agreed with you. But the funny thing is 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't have agreed with you. But I mean, yeah, look, Joni Ernst sees the writing on the wall. And, with all due respect, I mean, I want to give props to Senator John Fetterman. John Fetterman, you just mentioned Tulsi. John Fetterman has basically said, oh, she's got my vote. So I think that people are starting to see that the realignment is real. It's coming. Moderate Dems, which are kind of an extinct species or damn near extinct, are starting to thrive again, it looks like. And maybe we'll see what happens. But I think you're right. I think Hegseth gets in, and I think you're going to get Kash Patel. I think that's a safe bet now. Tulsi, I think, is safe. Yeah, I think he's going to get them all. And, happy days may well soon be here again.
Yeah, we just literally, for how many months have we been saying we don't really have a president? Can we make it to the end? And the drone crisis sort of heightens that. If we had had a really effective presidency, well, we wouldn't have the drone crisis, would we? But we don't, and that's why these fears. So we have to make it through. So that's it this week for us at Del Beccaro and Hook. Of course, get us on Rumble, get us on YouTube, and of course at Patriot.tv, where we have a page to ourselves, and so most importantly, share this with somebody. We'd like to grow this program as much as possible. That's Steve Hook, who said last week that he got a haircut, and now you know.
Tuesday, it's coming. My barber is in high demand.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Goodbye.